Hey everyone, welcome back to Zarila HOA Stories, where real-life neighborhood drama turns into entertainment. If you love stories about Karens, petty revenge, and HOA chaos, you're in the right place. Drop your country or city name down in the comments. I want to know where my HOA survivors are from. And make sure to subscribe, like, and turn on notifications because you don't want to miss what happens next in this crazy series. It all began with a door. Just a door. Bright, cheerful red. The kind that says, this house has personality. But apparently, personality was against the HOA rules. Or at least, that's what Karen said. Karen wasn't just any neighbor. She was the self-appointed queen of our street. Clipboard in hand, sunglasses always perched on her nose, and a voice that could slice through morning peace. She wasn't even the HOA president, but somehow she made every decision sound official. One morning, while I was watering my plants, she marched straight up my driveway like a sheriff entering a crime scene. Her eyes went straight to my door. "That red," she said, her lips twisting like she'd tasted something sour. "It's not on the approved color palette." "Oh," I asked. "I didn't know we had a color palette." "We do now," she snapped. "And that shade is far too bright. It's distracting." Distracting. My door was apparently causing neighborhood-wide chaos. I looked at her, trying not to laugh. "Well, I like it. It makes me happy." She gave me a tight smile. "It's not about happiness. It's about uniformity." The next day, there was a letter taped to my mailbox. It was written like an official HOA document, but signed by none other than Karen herself. Apparently, my door violated aesthetic harmony, and I owed a $100 fine. I actually framed the letter. But a week later, the fine doubled, and that's when I realized she wasn't just bluffing. So I drove down to the paint store, walked straight up to the counter, and said, "Show me the brightest red paint you've got. The kind that can be seen from space." The guy laughed, but I wasn't kidding. The next morning, the sun hit my door like it was on stage. It glowed. Birds avoided flying near it. Even the mailman wore sunglasses when he dropped off letters. Around noon, Karen appeared again, walking briskly, clipboard ready for battle. When she saw the door, she stopped mid-step. Her jaw dropped. "What have you done?" she gasped. "Oh," I said, smiling. "I fixed the problem." "You said my door was too dull, right?" "No, I said it was too bright." "Oops." Her face went redder than my door. She stormed off, muttering something about property values and non-compliance. I just waved and went back inside, feeling very satisfied. That evening, the neighborhood group chat exploded. Karen had posted a blurry photo of my house with the caption, "We must protect our community's image. Please vote to enforce stricter paint codes." The comments came fast. "It's just a door, Karen. Honestly, I kind of like it. Maybe focus on your yard before judging others." By the next morning, half the neighborhood had seen it. Some people even walked by just to laugh. My red door had become famous. Karen, though, she was furious. And when Karen's furious, she doesn't back down. She organizes. She plans. And this time, she was calling for an emergency HOA meeting. But what she didn't know was that not everyone in the neighborhood was on her side anymore. The HOA meeting was set for Saturday morning, and of course, Karen made sure everyone knew. Flyers were taped to mailboxes, emails were sent with subject lines like urgent, neighborhood color code violation, and she even stopped dog walkers to remind them. You'd think someone had spray painted the whole street instead of just painted a door. By Friday night, my phone buzzed nonstop. Neighbors were whispering, joking, even placing bets on how long the meeting would last before Karen lost her cool. One text from my next-door neighbor, Jamie, said, "Bring popcorn. This is going to be good." Saturday arrived. The meeting was at the small park near the entrance of our community, under the big oak tree, the same spot Karen liked to call the heart of our HOA. There were folding chairs, a card table with a stack of printed bylaws, and of course Karen, already sitting in the center seat like a judge waiting for her courtroom to fill. I walked up with my coffee, wearing my brightest red shirt to match my door. A few people chuckled when they saw me. Karen didn't. She tapped her clipboard. "We'll begin shortly. We're here to discuss property violations, specifically unapproved paint colors." Someone in the back muttered, "You mean one paint color?" and a small wave of laughter followed. Karen glared, then looked directly at me. "I'd like to remind everyone," she said, "that our neighborhood has standards. We must maintain harmony and consistency." Jamie raised her hand. "Karen, no offense, but I've lived here 8 years and never once saw a rule about door colors. Did something change recently?" Karen straightened up. "It's in the revised guidelines." "Revised by who?" someone else asked. Karen hesitated. "By the board." Another neighbor, Mr. Lee, folded his arms. "The board hasn't met in months." Now whispers started spreading. People were glancing around, realizing that maybe this whole thing wasn't as official as Karen made it sound. Karen's voice rose. "Well, I spoke to several members and we agreed." "Which members?" I asked, leaning back in my chair. "Confidential," she said quickly. I got a few eye rolls. I sipped my coffee and smiled. "So basically, this rule doesn't exist." Karen slammed her clipboard shut. "It's about the principle. That color is too loud. It disrupts the look of our community." Jamie smirked. "You mean it clashes with your beige house?" The crowd burst out laughing. Even Mr. Lee cracked a smile. Karen's face turned pink, but she tried to stay composed. "This is a serious matter. Property values are affected by visual consistency." I leaned forward. "Karen, I checked the county code and our original HOA agreement. There's no rule against any specific door color. So unless you have an actual regulation in writing, I don't owe a dime in fines." A long silence followed. Everyone waited. Karen flipped through her stack of papers, pretending to search for something, but it was obvious she had nothing. Finally, she said, "Fine. We'll vote on a new color code immediately." Jamie laughed again. "You can't make new rules to punish one person." That was it. The crowd started murmuring louder, voices overlapping. Some defended me. Others just wanted peace, but one thing was clear. Karen had lost control of the meeting. A neighbor named Luis stood up. "Look, nobody's mad about the door except you. Maybe we should focus on fixing the broken park lights instead of paint colors." Several people nodded and clapped lightly. Karen looked around, realizing she was outnumbered. Her power was slipping away. She gathered her papers with shaking hands and muttered, "This meeting is adjourned." As people stood to leave, Jamie leaned toward me and whispered, "You won that round." I smiled. "Round one, maybe," because something told me Karen wasn't done yet. She wasn't the type to accept defeat quietly. And sure enough, later that night, I heard the sound of someone walking slowly past my house. Through the blinds, I saw her, flashlight in hand, pointing at my door like a detective at a crime scene. I couldn't help it. I opened the door, letting the bright red glow spill across the yard. "Evening, Karen," I said, admiring the color. She jumped, nearly dropping her flashlight. "Just inspecting." "Of course," I said. "Don't worry. It's not going anywhere." She didn't reply, just glared, turned, and walked away, her shadow stretching down the sidewalk. And that's when I realized something. This wasn't just about a door anymore. For Karen, it was about control. And for me, it was about fun. The next few days after the chaotic HOA meeting were strangely peaceful. No new letters, no complaints, not even a glare from Karen. It felt unnatural, like a cat sitting too quietly before it pounces. I knew her silence meant something was brewing. By Wednesday morning, the mystery revealed itself. I opened my mailbox to find a plain yellow envelope. No stamp, no logo, just my name written in sharp, angry handwriting. I didn't even have to open it to know who it was from. Inside, in bold, capital letters, it read, "Notice of Noncompliance. Per HOA Code 4.3, residents must maintain neutral exteriors. Continued violation may result in additional fines and community action." It wasn't printed on official HOA paper, just a Word document she'd probably made herself. The bottom line said, "Respectfully, HOA Enforcement Committee," which was hilarious because there was no such committee. That evening, I walked next door to show it to Jamie. She was sitting on her porch with lemonade and that grin she always had when drama was about to unfold. She took one look at the letter and burst out laughing. She made up her own committee? What's next, the fashion police? Exactly, I said. If she can invent committees, so can I. Jamie leaned forward. Oh, that sounds dangerous. What are you thinking? I smirked. Something educational. Maybe I'll send her a notice from the Department of Mind Your Own Business. Jamie laughed, so hard she almost spit her drink. Do it. Please do it. And I did. The next morning, I sat at my desk and typed up an official-looking document with a header that said, Neighborhood Sanity Committee, Community Warning. The letter read, Dear resident, your repeated and unauthorized attempts to enforce non-existent rules have drawn the attention of the Neighborhood Sanity Committee. Please cease creating imaginary codes, or a full sanity review will be conducted. At the bottom, I signed it. Acting Chairperson, Neighborhood Sanity Committee. I even added a little fake logo, a smiling house with sunglasses. Then I printed it, sealed it in an envelope, and slipped it into her mailbox early the next morning. By noon, Karen was outside, pacing across her driveway, clutching the paper like it was radioactive. She kept turning it around, scanning every corner, probably trying to figure out who had sent it. Later, I got a text from Jamie. She's walking door to door, asking who's on the sanity committee. I texted back, everyone who isn't her. That night, I was sitting on my porch when Karen marched past with her phone pressed to her ear, muttering something about fraudulent correspondence. She even took photos of her mailbox for evidence. But that wasn't all. On Friday, a manila envelope appeared on my doorstep. This one was official, stamped with the HOA logo. Inside was a short letter from Mr. Walker, the actual HOA president. It said, Due to a resident complaint, we'll be conducting a property inspection to verify compliance with neighborhood standards. I laughed out loud. She'd gone and roped him into it. Jamie came over when she saw me holding the letter. She actually called the president. Oh, she's serious now, I said. She wants a full-blown inspection. Jamie grinned. You know what this means, right? She's scared she's losing control. Exactly, I said, folding the letter. And I'm going to make sure she loses it completely. The next morning, I got up early. If Karen wanted an inspection, she was going to get a show. I scrubbed my porch, polished the doorknob until it shined, and added a brand new welcome mat that said, Make yourself at home, unless you're Karen. At around 10 a.m., a silver sedan pulled up. Out stepped Mr. Walker, an older man with gray hair, kind eyes, and the tired look of someone who'd rather be golfing. Karen followed close behind, clipboard in hand like a soldier reporting for duty. Mr. Walker gave me a polite smile. Morning. We're here just to check a few things. Of course, I said cheerfully, holding the door open. Come take a look. Karen stayed outside, arms crossed, glaring at the door like it personally insulted her. Mr. Walker walked around, checking boxes on his clipboard. Your yard looks good. Paint's in great condition. You've done nice work. Karen cut in sharply. Yes, but the color, he interrupted. There's no written restriction on door color in our current code, Karen. Her jaw tightened. It's implied. Mr. Walker sighed. We don't enforce implied rules. I had to bite my lip to keep from laughing. He handed me his clipboard and said, You're good. No violations here. Karen looked like she'd swallowed a lemon. I smiled sweetly. Thanks for stopping by. Would you like me to send a copy of the Sanity Committee's approval letter too? Mr. Walker chuckled as he walked back to his car. Karen didn't answer. She just stood there, speechless, her face matching the exact shade of my door. And as they drove off, I couldn't help but think this was far from over. Karen didn't like losing, and now she had a new mission, revenge. Karen's silence after the inspection didn't last long. For a few days, things were calm again. No letters, no shouting, no new fake HOA codes. I almost started to believe she'd finally moved on. But of course, that was wishful thinking. By the following week, weird things started happening. My garbage can, which I always rolled out to the curb on Wednesday nights, began mysteriously disappearing. Not gone, just moved halfway down the block. The first time, I thought maybe it was a mistake. The second time, I knew better. Jamie spotted it before I did. Karen's been dragging your trash can, she whispered over text. I saw her last night, wearing gloves. She looked around first. I laughed so hard I nearly choked. Is she seriously sabotaging my garbage? Apparently, Jamie replied. Maybe she's starting a new committee, the Trash Relocation Department. But that wasn't all. The next morning, I woke up to find my mailbox tilted sideways, like someone had yanked on it too hard. It wasn't broken, but it was obvious someone had been messing with it. I knew Karen was behind it, but I didn't have proof. And without proof, she'd just deny everything. So I decided to get some. That weekend, I installed a small door camera, discreet, right above the doorframe. I angled it perfectly so it captured my porch, the front walk, and part of the street. Jamie saw me putting it up and grinned. Operation Catch Karen. You bet, I said. Let's see what her clipboard looks like under infrared. For 2 nights, nothing happened. But on the 3rd night, around midnight, I got an alert on my phone. Motion detected. I opened the feed and nearly dropped my phone. There she was, Karen, creeping across my yard in her robe and slippers, flashlight in hand. She walked up to my door, squinted at the red paint, and took pictures with her phone. Then she crouched down and ran her finger along the edge of the door like she was checking for dust. I couldn't believe it. She was inspecting my door in the middle of the night. The next morning, I showed Jamie the footage. She laughed so loud her husband came out to see what was going on. You need to post this, she said between laughs. Title it, Karen, The Midnight Inspector. I might, I said, smiling. But first, I think I'll let her know I saw her. That afternoon, I printed out a single screenshot, Karen flashlight in hand, looking dead serious at my door, and taped it right to the door itself. Below it, I wrote in bull marker, Caught you admiring the color. By sunset, it was gone. But that evening, the neighborhood group chat lit up again. Someone had posted anonymously. Certain residents are installing invasive surveillance devices. It's making people uncomfortable. Jamie immediately replied, You mean cameras that catch trespassers? Sounds useful. Dozens of people agreed. Karen didn't reply, but I knew it was her. 2 days later, I received a new HOA letter, this time real. It said the HOA board was scheduling a special review to discuss security cameras and neighborhood privacy concerns. Karen was clearly trying to twist the situation, pretending I was the problem now. Jamie came over as soon as I told her. She's really doing this? Oh, she's doing it, I said. But she just made a mistake. What mistake? She put in writing. Because now, the HOA had to invite me to that meeting too. And this time, I wasn't going in alone. That evening, I went door to door, talking to neighbors, the same ones who'd been laughing about my red door weeks earlier. I told them what happened, showed them the video clip, and asked one simple question. Would you feel safer knowing someone's watching out for suspicious activity? Everyone said yes. By the time the meeting rolled around, Karen expected a crowd ready to attack me for invading privacy. What she didn't expect was half the neighborhood showing up to support me. When she started her speech, clipboard in one hand, fake concern in her voice, people interrupted her with questions. Real ones. Why were you on her property at midnight? Why does it bother you if people protect their homes? Didn't you start this with a made-up rule? Her voice started to shake. She tried to talk over them, but no one was listening anymore. I sat there quietly, sipping water, and waited for her to finish. When she did, I stood up, calm and polite. I installed the camera after repeated vandalism to my property, I said. And thanks to that, I discovered something important. That maybe the real problem isn't a camera or a red door. Everyone turned toward her. Karen's face went pale. She tried to defend herself, but it was too late. The HOA president cleared his throat and said, We'll take no further action. Case closed. Karen stormed out without a word, her clipboard tucked under her arm like a defeated sword. As I walked home that night, I passed my red door and smiled. It gleamed softly under the porch light, almost glowing. For the first time in weeks, I felt peaceful. But deep down, I knew Karen wasn't finished. Not yet. A week passed after the camera meeting, and life in the neighborhood almost felt normal again. People waved at me when they walked by. A few even complimented the red door, and for the first time in months, I didn't wake up to another one of Karen's complaints. It was almost too good to be true. Of course, that's how every calm moment in this story starts, with a false sense of peace. It was a sunny Saturday morning when Jamie showed up on my porch, holding her phone with that "you need to see this" face. Have you checked the HOA group page today? She asked. I hadn't. Why? She handed me her phone. On the screen was a post from Karen. In big, bold letters it read, Community Beautification Initiative. Let's bring back harmony. Underneath, she wrote, We'll be repainting approved homes with proper neighborhood tones next month. Volunteers welcome. Donations appreciated. Please message me directly if you're interested. I scrolled through the comments, mostly confusion, some amusement, and one brave soul who asked, "Approved by who?" No surprise, she didn't answer. Jamie laughed. She's starting her own neighborhood makeover project. This woman is unstoppable. More like unhinged, I said. She's trying to repaint people's houses now. Apparently, Jamie said, sipping her coffee. You're the reason she's doing this, by the way. That red door lives rent-free in her head. That made me grin. Then maybe I should pay rent in style. I spent the rest of the weekend thinking about how to handle it. I could report her, sure, but where's the fun in that? No, this needed a little creativity and some teamwork. On Monday, I went around to a few neighbors, the ones who were tired of her nonsense. The more we talked, the more everyone wanted in. Louise from 2 houses down said, if she wants a color war, let's give her one. And that's how the neighborhood glow-up was born. The next Saturday, bright and early, a few of us gathered in my driveway. We had paint cans, brushes, music, and snacks. It wasn't an official event. No rules, no sign-ups, just fun. Jamie arrived wearing a red bandana and carrying a speaker, blasting upbeat music. All right, she said, today we make the street sparkle. Luis grinned. I've got blue paint for my shutters. My wife's doing lavender for the planters. I held up a small can of paint, and I've got a touch-up for my door. Just a little brighter. We laughed, but by noon, the whole street had come alive. People were planting flowers, repainting fences, washing cars. It looked amazing, colorful, cheerful, and completely against everything Karen stood for. She must have noticed the moment she stepped outside. From down the street, I saw her freeze. Her jaw actually dropped. She stomped over, clipboard in hand, eyes wide like she'd walked into a nightmare made of color. What is going on? She demanded. Louise smiled. Beautification initiative. We read your post. Jamie added sweetly. You said we should repaint our homes to bring harmony. So we did. Karen's mouth opened, but no words came out. She looked around at the pink flower pots, green garden chairs, and my blazing red door shining in the sun. This isn't what I meant, she finally snapped. You're all ruining the aesthetic. The community seems to love it, I said calmly. Just look at it. Everyone's outside, smiling for once. And it was true. The street was full of laughter, music, and color. For the first time in a long time, people weren't arguing about rules. They were just enjoying where they lived. Karen glared at me. You think this is funny? I shrugged. A little. She turned to storm off, muttering about order and discipline. But before she left, Jamie called after her, Don't forget to donate to the beautification fund, Karen. Everyone laughed. Karen didn't look back. By sunset, the street looked transformed. The houses weren't perfect, but they had life. The neighbors stayed out talking long after the sun went down, and for once, the HOA felt like a community again, not a battlefield. As I sat on my porch that night, watching the colors glow in the warm light, I felt proud. But deep down, I knew this victory would sting for Karen. And when she's embarrassed, she always strikes back. And sure enough, the next morning, something new appeared on my door. A letter, taped neatly in the center. I tore it off, expecting another fake warning, but this one wasn't from Karen. It was from the county office. Apparently, someone had filed a formal complaint about unauthorized exterior modifications. And I didn't even have to guess who had made the call. The envelope from the county office sat heavy in my hands. The paper was official, printed seal, watermark, and all. I tore it open carefully, half dreading what was inside. It read, This notice is to inform the homeowner that a complaint has been filed regarding potential violations of local property appearance standards. Please respond within 10 business days to schedule an inspection. My stomach sank. This wasn't one of Karen's fake letters. She'd gone beyond the HOA now, straight to the county. I leaned against the doorframe, staring at my too bright, red door like it had just started a war. Jamie showed up minutes later, holding 2 iced coffees. One look at my face, and she knew something was wrong. What happened? She asked. I handed her the letter. She scanned it, eyes widening. She really did it. She went official. Yep. I said bitterly. Guess she's trying to make me a government case now. Jamie let out a slow whistle. Okay, this is next level. What are you going to do? I sighed. I'll call them Monday. But I'm not changing the color. Not after all this. Jamie nodded. Good. Don't let her win. We'll figure this out. Over the next 2 days, word spread through the neighborhood. Everyone knew Karen had pushed it too far. Even people who used to avoid the drama were whispering about it. A few neighbors came by to show support. Luis even offered to show the inspector his own blue shutters if needed. Strength in numbers, he said, grinning. Monday came, and I called the county office. A polite woman answered, and when I explained the situation, she sighed softly. Oh, yes, we've received several similar complaints from your area, from the same person, actually. I couldn't help but smile. Let me guess, blonde hair, sunglasses, clipboard? She chuckled quietly. You're not the first to describe her that way. We scheduled an inspection for Thursday morning. I cleaned up the yard, polished the mailbox, and made sure everything looked perfect. I wanted the inspector to see that the only problem was a shade of paint that hurt Karen's feelings. Thursday arrived sunny and calm. A white county car pulled up at 9 a.m. and out stepped a man in a neat shirt with a clipboard, but not that clipboard. Morning, he greeted. I'm here about the complaint. I smiled politely. You're welcome to look around. He did a slow walk around the property, jotting notes here and there. Finally, he stopped in front of the infamous red door. He stared for a long moment. So, he said, this is the issue? Apparently, I replied. He gave a small grin. It's a nice color. I've seen worse. Way worse. Tell that to the lady across the street, I said, tilting my head toward Karen's house. Sure enough, her blinds were slightly open. She was definitely watching. The inspector sighed. We get these complaints a lot. Usually, it's just a personal grudge wrapped in paperwork. He scribbled one last note, then said, You're fine. I'll close the case. Relief washed over me. Seriously? He nodded. Yep. Nothing here violates county codes. You're all good. I thanked him, and as he drove off, I turned to see Karen storming out her house. She marched right up to me, furious. You bribed him, didn't you? I blinked. Bribed him? Karen, it's red paint, not a crime. She pointed at my door, her voice trembling with anger. You're mocking this community. Karen, I said calmly, this community was miserable until people started standing up to your rules. Now look around. People are finally happy. Neighbors have begun stepping out of their homes, watching the argument unfold. Luis, Jamie, and even quiet old Mr. Walker were among them. Karen noticed and turned red herself. You're all against me. Jamie crossed her arms. No, Karen, we're just done letting you ruin everyone's peace. For a second, Karen looked stunned, like it had never occurred to her that she might actually be the problem. Then she huffed, spun on her heel, and stomped back home, slamming the door behind her. The crowd slowly dispersed, laughing softly. Jamie nudged me. That was beautiful. I smiled. She'll cool off. But I was wrong. Later that evening, as I was locking up, I noticed a strange car parked outside her house. Two men were unloading something, boxes, a folding table, and a banner. I squinted. The banner read, HOA Neighborhood Standards Revival, hosted by Karen. She wasn't cooling off. She was planning something big. By the next morning, the quiet suburban street looked like it was preparing for a festival, but not the fun kind. Karen's driveway was filled with folding chairs, posters, and a long table covered with stacks of printed flyers. She'd even set up a podium with a small microphone plugged into a portable speaker. I watched from my porch, coffee in hand, try not to laugh. Jamie came jogging over in her slippers. Please tell me this isn't what I think it is. Oh, it is, I said. She's launching her own HOA rebellion, a neighborhood standards revival. Jamie groaned. Of course she is. What's next? A uniform color code for grass. We both watched as Karen arranged her papers in perfect, sharp stacks. She wore her usual sunglasses and a floral blouse that screamed, I mean business. She even had a few helpers, people I didn't recognize. Outsiders, maybe. They were setting up chairs and handing out bottled water like it was a corporate event. Within an hour, curious neighbors began wandering out. Some came just for the drama. Others looked worried. And then, Karen tapped the microphone, her voice blasting through the quiet street. "Good morning, everyone," she began cheerfully, though her tone had that sharp edge that made people straighten up. "As many of you know, our community has been drifting away from its intended harmony." Jamie leaned over and whispered, "Translation, people are having fun again." Karen continued, "I've taken the liberty of drafting new guidelines, stricter, clearer, and designed to restore the peaceful, elegant look our neighborhood deserves." I could almost hear eyes rolling. Luis raised his hand. "You mean the same rules you made up last time?" Karen smiled tightly. "No, Luis. These are official proposals. Once approved by majority vote, they'll be added to our HOA charter." Majority vote? That got my attention. Karen was actually trying to change the neighborhood rules, for real this time. I walked over, joining the small crowd forming around her. "Morning, Karen," I said lightly. "Love the setup. You renting this from Party City?" She ignored me. "I see everyone's interested," she said. "Let's discuss a few proposed updates. No exterior colors brighter than taupe. No decorative lighting visible from a street. And," she glanced at me, "no doors painted in unnatural shades." A low murmur rippled through the crowd. "Unnatural?" Jamie said loudly. "What is this, a vampire colony?" Karen's face tightened. "We must maintain class and order. Otherwise, our property values will." I cut in. "Karen, the only thing hurting property values is the constant drama. People want to live somewhere friendly, not somewhere they get fined for smiling too loud." That got a few laughs. Even Mr. Walker chuckled quietly in the back. Karen banged her clipboard against the table. "Enough. You've turned this neighborhood into a circus." Luis grinned. "And yet, we're all here watching the main act." The tension cracked. People started laughing, clapping, even cheering. Someone shouted, "Long live the red door." Karen looked furious. "You're mocking the rules. This is a disgrace." I stepped forward calmly. "Karen, no one's mocking the neighborhood. We just don't want to be controlled by one person's idea of perfect." Her lips quivered. "I've given years to this community." "I know," I said softly. "But somewhere along the way, you forgot it's supposed to be about people, not paint." The crowd went quiet for a moment. Even she seemed unsure how to respond. Then, she turned away abruptly, grabbed her stack of flyers, and started handing them out again, desperately, like if she could just get one person to agree, she'd win. But no one took them. One by one, the neighbors walked away. Chairs folded, tables left half-covered. The so-called revival ended before it even began. By evening, the street was back to normal. Kids were riding bikes, sprinklers were running, and music played faintly from someone's backyard. Jamie and I sat on my porch steps, watching the sunset reflect off my shiny red door. "She's not done," Jamie said quietly. "I know," I replied, "but she's running out of people to fight." Across the street, Karen stood alone in her driveway, staring at the flyers that no one wanted. Her face looked different, not angry this time, just lost. For the first time, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Then she turned, stormed into her house, and slammed the door. Jamie sipped her drink. "And that's our cue for popcorn. Round two's coming." I laughed softly, but deep down, I knew she was right. Karen wasn't the type to surrender. She was the kind of storm that comes back after the sky clears, louder, meaner, and ready to prove a point. And the way she'd glared at me just before she went inside, it told me one thing. She already had a plan. The next few days were quiet again, but not the good kind of quiet. It was that uneasy silence before something bad happens. I didn't see Karen outside, not even once. No walks, no car in the driveway, not even her blinds twitching. Jamie noticed it too. "You think she's plotting?" she asked one evening, sipping soda on my porch. "Absolutely," I said. "Karen's silence is never peace. It's preparation." We both laughed, but part of me meant it. Karen never disappeared unless she was cooking up something dramatic. That something revealed itself on Friday afternoon. I was mowing the lawn when a delivery truck pulled up in front of her house. Two guys started unloading huge boxes labeled Property Monitoring System. I froze. "Oh no." Jamie came running from across the street, phone in hand, recording. "Please tell me she didn't." "She did," I said. She bought surveillance equipment. We watched as they installed cameras, real ones this time, on her porch, above her garage, even pointing toward the street. One of them was aimed directly at my house. Jamie frowned. That's not even subtle. It's not supposed to be, I said. By sunset, the cameras were blinking red like little warning lights. And later that night, when I stepped out to take the trash, I could feel them tracking me. It was creepy, invasive, and absolutely something Karen would do. The next morning, a new email popped up in the neighborhood group chat. From Karen, HOA committee. It read, "To ensure compliance with community standards, a volunteer monitoring system has been activated. Please be aware that all exterior activities are now being recorded for HOA review." Jamie replied instantly. Volunteer? Who volunteered? The NSA. Luis added, "So you're spying on us now?" Dozens of messages followed, neighbors outraged, demanding explanations. But Karen didn't respond. Instead, she doubled down. By afternoon, she posted community compliance reports with timestamps and photos. She was screenshotting people walking dogs without leashes, kids chalking on sidewalks, and even someone grilling on their porch. It was chaos. By the end of the day, half the neighborhood wanted to call the police, and the other half was too scared to step outside. That's when Jamie had an idea. "If she wants to spy on everyone," she said, grinning mischievously, "let's give her a show." Saturday evening, we got to work. A few of us gathered props, cardboard signs, bright lights, even costumes. Luis brought out a speaker and played dramatic music. At 8 p.m. sharp, we all stood right in front of Karen's cameras and started performing the most ridiculous neighborhood parade ever. Jamie wore a red cape and shouted, "All hail the Red Door." Luis danced with a broom like it was a partner. Someone else marched with a garden gnome on a stick. We were laughing so hard, we could barely keep straight faces. And of course, Karen came storming out, horrified. "What is this nonsense?" she screamed. "Community spirit." Jamie shouted back, "You're recording, right? Make sure you get my good side." Even the usually quiet neighbors were laughing from their porches. For once, it wasn't about rebellion. It was about joy. Karen's face turned the color of my door. "You're mocking me again?" "No," I said, barely holding back laughter. "We're just living." She glared at me, then stomped back inside. A minute later, the cameras turned off. Everyone cheered. It was over, or so we thought. The next morning, the cameras were back on, but now there was a new sign posted in her yard. "Under legal review, trespassers will be reported." Jamie groaned. She's escalating again. But this time I wasn't scared. I was tired of playing her games. That afternoon, I printed out every single photo she'd posted online, every fake rule she'd written, and every complaint she'd filed. Then I took the stack straight to the real HOA office downtown. The woman at the desk looked shocked as she flipped through the papers. "She did all this?" "Every bit of it," I said. "She's using the HOA's name to harass people." The woman nodded slowly. "Thank you for bringing this in. We'll handle it." When I walked out of that office, I felt lighter. Like for the first time, the fight might actually end. But as I drove home, a strange thought crossed my mind. Karen had been too quiet that morning. And if I knew her, she wasn't the type to wait for anyone else to handle it. Whatever came next, she'd make sure it was loud. When I pulled into the driveway that evening, the neighborhood felt off. The street lights were flickering, and there was a strange buzz of whispering from a few houses down. Jamie came jogging over before I even turned off the car. "You won't believe what she did," she said breathlessly. My first thought, "Oh no, not again." "What now?" She called a news reporter. "Like, an actual local channel. They're coming here tonight." I blinked. "You're joking." "I wish I was," Jamie said, holding up her phone. Sure enough, there was a post from Karen on the community page. Local Channel 8 will be covering the decline of neighborhood standards and community respect. Please be available to share your concerns at 7 p.m. It was 6:45. I looked at Jamie. "She's bringing the media into this?" Jamie shrugged, grinning. "Guess your Red Door is going on TV." Sure enough, 15 minutes later, a white van with Channel 8 News painted on the side rolled up. A cameraman climbed out, followed by a smiling reporter in a blue blazer. Karen was already waiting with a folder of evidence and her usual overly bright lipstick. I stayed on my porch, sipping water, trying to stay out of it. But of course, the reporter spotted me almost instantly. "You must be the homeowner with the red door," she said, walking over. "Karen mentioned you in her statement." I sighed. Of course she did. Karen marched behind her, looking smug. "Yes, he's the one causing disruption and—" "Karen," I interrupted, "you've been trying to ban colors and spy on neighbors. The only disruption here is your obsession with rules." The reporter's eyebrows lifted. "So there's tension between residents and the HOA?" Jamie stepped in from his side. "There's tension between everyone and her," she said, pointing at Karen. The cameraman kept filming as neighbors slowly started gathering. Some carried lawn chairs, others their phones. Luis even brought popcorn. Karen tried to regain control. "This neighborhood used to be beautiful, orderly, peaceful. Now it looks like a carnival." Luis grinned. "We like the carnival." People laughed. The reporter, clearly enjoying the drama, turned to me. "So what started all this?" I looked straight at the camera. A door, a color, and one woman who thought she owned everyone else's happiness. Gasps and chuckles rippled through the crowd. Karen's jaw tightened, her cheeks flushed bright pink. "You're twisting this," she snapped. "I just wanted people to respect the community rules." Jamie folded her arms. "You made up half of them, Karen." The reporter asked, "So there's disagreement about the legitimacy of these rules?" "Disagreement?" Jamie laughed. "There's proof. She's been filing fake complaints and sending fake letters." Karen's voice rose. "Lies. All lies." And then, like perfect timing, the HOA president, Mr. Walker, walked out of his house. He looked tired but determined. He held a thick envelope in one hand. "Karen," he said calmly, "the HOA board received multiple reports about your actions. After reviewing the evidence," he paused, "you're being removed from your committee position effective immediately." The crowd went silent. Even the reporter looked surprised. Karen blinked, stunned. "You can't do that. I am the HOA." Mr. Walker shook his head. "You were. The HOA isn't one person. It's all of us." Then he turned to the reporter. "You want a real story? Write about neighbors standing up for peace." For a moment, no one moved. Karen's clipboard slipped from her hands and hit the pavement with a small thud. Then Luis clapped. Then Jamie. Then almost everyone. The reporter, trying not to smile, turned to the camera and said, "It seems the residents here have found their own way to resolve conflict, with color, humor, and community." As the news van drove off and the crowd began to break up, Karen stood frozen in her driveway, staring at the house she no longer ruled. Jamie nudged me. "Think she's done now?" I looked at her, then at Karen's face. It wasn't anger this time. It was disbelief. Like her whole world had been painted over and she didn't know what color it was anymore. I said quietly, she just realized she lost her power. For the first time, the street felt truly peaceful. Kids laughed again. Music played. The evening breeze carried laughter instead of tension. But as I locked my front door that night, I caught a glimpse of Karen through her window. She wasn't pacing or plotting. She was just sitting there, staring at her own front door. And for once, it wasn't me she seemed to hate. It was the silence she'd created for herself. A full week passed after the news story aired, and for the first time in months, the neighborhood felt normal. No surprise letters. No angry rants. No new codes taped to anyone's mailbox. Even the air felt lighter. Every morning, I'd walk out, sip my coffee, and smile at my bright red door. The same one that had somehow started a neighborhood revolution. Jamie called it the door of freedom. Luis even painted his garage door a soft teal in solidarity. People had stopped being afraid of color and started being proud of their homes again. But there was one person we didn't see. Karen. Her house looked quiet, too quiet. Curtains always drawn, no movement in the driveway, not even the hum of her sprinkler system that used to go off at 6 a.m. sharp. One afternoon, while watering my plants, I noticed a small envelope on my porch. No stamp, no name, just a single word written in neat handwriting. "Sorry." I turned it over, and there was no return address. But I didn't need one. I knew who it was from. I opened it carefully. Inside, a single note. "You were right. I forgot this was supposed to be a place people love, not fear. I don't expect forgiveness, but I wanted you to know I'm done fighting. I read it twice, then stood there in silence. For the first time, Karen's words didn't sound sharp or controlling. They sounded tired, human. Jamie came over later that evening and noticed a note on my table. She wrote that. I nodded. Yeah, I think she's really done this time. Jamie smiled faintly. Good. Maybe she finally realized we weren't her enemies. The next day, we all saw Karen's car packed up with boxes. She wasn't dramatic about it. No shouting, no announcements. Just quietly loading things up. Neighbors peeked from their windows, unsure whether to wave or pretend not to notice. Finally, I decided to walk over. She looked up as I approached, a little startled. Leaving? I asked. She nodded, resting her clipboard. Yes, she still had one. On the trunk. Moving closer to my sister's place. It's time for a change. There was an awkward pause. For once, I didn't feel the need to make a joke. I got your letter, I said. Thank you. Karen looked down, then said softly, I didn't mean for things to go that far. I just wanted everything to stay nice. I know, I said, but sometimes nice means letting people be themselves. She gave a small, tired smile. I guess I learned that too late. Before she got her car, she looked past me at the red door and actually chuckled. It's brighter than I remember. Yeah, I said. Sunlight brings it out more. She nodded once. Goodbye then. And just like that, Karen, the woman who once ruled the block with a clipboard and endless complaints, drove away. No drama, no threats, just silence and the sound of her tires fading down the road. A few neighbors came out as her car disappeared. Luis crossed his arms. So, do we throw a party now? Or is that too soon? Jamie laughed. Knowing her, she's probably writing a rule book about her new neighborhood already. I smiled, shaking my head. Maybe, but maybe she's really done. That evening, we all gathered outside. Someone brought a grill, someone else brought lemonade, and before long, the whole street was laughing and talking like old friends. The houses glowed in their mix of colors, blue shutters, yellow chairs, lavender flowers, and at the end of the row stood my bright, unbothered red door. Jamie leaned against the porch railing beside me. You realize, she said, that you basically ended a neighborhood dictatorship with a can of paint? I laughed. I didn't plan it. I just wanted a little color. Yeah, she said with a grin. And now everyone's living in it. As the sun dipped behind the roofs, painting the sky in streaks of pink and gold, I looked around at the street that finally felt alive. No HOA memos, no tension, no constant fear of breaking some made-up rule. Just neighbors, people, enjoying life again. Maybe that's what it took all along. One stubborn person to say no to control and yes to being human. I took one last look at my door before heading inside. It gleamed in the fading light, bold and unapologetic. And I smiled, thinking, sometimes peace doesn't come from silence. It comes from color. Months passed after Karen's departure, and life on our little street had completely changed. The same neighborhood that once felt like a rulebook prison was now full of warmth and laughter. Kids rode bikes freely, people actually decorated for holidays again, and no one worried about being out of compliance. The HOA still technically existed, but under Mr. Walker, it became what it was supposed to be, a simple group that helped with repairs and organized events, not one that policed people's lives. Jamie started a neighborhood Sunday brunch tradition. Every first Sunday of the month, we'd gather on my lawn with folding tables, homemade food, and mismatched chairs. It wasn't fancy, but it was real. During one of those brunches, Luis raised his glass and said, "To the red door, the reason we're finally free." Everyone laughed and cheered, but I waved him off. No, not the door. To the people who decided to stop being afraid. It was cheesy but true. Still, even with all the good energy, there was a small mystery that none of us could ignore. A few weeks after Karen left, little envelopes began appearing in people's mailboxes. No names, no handwriting, just short, typed notes. Luis got one that said, "Your flowers look beautiful. Keep them blooming." Jamie said, "That mural you painted made me smile." Mine read, "The red door suits you." Never dull it down. At first, everyone thought it was some secret neighbor spreading kindness, a little anonymous cheer campaign. But deep down, I had a feeling. The tone, the careful words, it felt familiar. Karen. Jamie noticed it too. You think she's the one sending these? Maybe, I said. Or maybe someone else picked up her habit of watching, but this time for good. We both smiled at that thought. Life rolled on peacefully. The seasons changed, and so did the neighborhood. Houses got small makeovers, pastel trims, painted fences, colorful porch chairs. It wasn't chaos, it was personality. Even Mr. Walker started showing up to brunch with his famous lemon pie. You know, he said one day, I've been president of this HOA for 15 years. Never seen people this happy. Jamie grinned. Maybe we should add a happiness code. Rule number 1, be kind. Rule number 2, bring snacks. Everyone laughed, and for a while, that was all we needed. Then one afternoon, as I was coming back from the store, I saw a moving van parked 3 houses down, in front of Karen's old home. A young couple stood by the porch, chatting excitedly with the movers. They looked bright, friendly, full of life. Jamie appeared beside me, eyes wide. New neighbors. We walked over to introduce ourselves. The couple, Daniel and Mia, were all smiles. We fell in love with this street the moment we saw it, Mia said. It just feels happy. Jamie and I exchanged knowing looks. Yeah, I said. It didn't always, but it does now. As we helped them carry boxes, Mia paused near my front yard. Her eyes widened. Oh, I love your door. That red is perfect. Jamie smirked. Oh, you have no idea how much history that door has. We all laughed, and I gave the short version about the old HOA drama, the color wars, and how the neighborhood found its freedom. Daniel shook his head, amused. So one red door started all this? Yep, Jamie said proudly. A little rebellion never hurt anyone. That night, as I sat on my porch, the new couple's lights glowing softly down the street, I thought about everything that had happened. All the fights, all the noise, all the color that came after. And then, as I stood to go inside, I noticed something new. On my doormat, a tiny envelope. No name, no handwriting, just one small, typed message inside. It looks like they'll take good care of it. Thank you for reminding me what community really means. No signature, but this time, I didn't need one. I smiled, looked toward the old house, and whispered, You're welcome, Karen. Then I went inside, closing the red door gently behind me, the door that once caused chaos and now stood for peace. Sometimes I thought people don't change overnight, but if you give them time, even the strictest hearts can find their color again. And for the first time ever, I realized the door wasn't just mine anymore. It belonged to all of us. A few weeks later, autumn began to roll in, soft golden sunlight, crisp air, and the sound of leaves crackling underfoot. The neighborhood looked more alive than ever. Kids decorated pumpkins. Jamie put up little fairy lights on her porch, and even Mr. Walker started hanging cheerful orange garlands around the HOA sign, the same sign that once felt like a symbol of control. One quiet evening, I sat on my porch with a cup of coffee, watching the sun dip behind the rooftops. The red of my door shimmered in the last bit of light, glowing like it was proud of everything it had survived. Jamie walked over, holding 2 mugs of hot chocolate. You know, she said, sitting beside me, when I first met you, I thought you were brave just for standing up to Karen. I smiled. I wasn't brave. I was just tired of pretending to fit in. She laughed softly. Sometimes that's all bravery really is. Across the street, the new couple, Daniel and Mia, were setting up for the first ever neighborhood movie night. A projector was already glowing against their garage door, and families started showing up with blankets and snacks. The atmosphere felt like one big family, easy, warm, genuine. Mr. Walker arrived with his lemon pie, of course. I think this might be the most successful thing we've ever done as an HOA, he said proudly. Probably because it's the first thing that doesn't come with a fine, Jamie joked. Everyone laughed. It was that kind of night, simple, real, peaceful. As the movie started playing, I caught myself staring at Karen's old house. For a moment, I imagined her there again, standing by the window, clipboard in hand. But this time, she wasn't frowning. She was smiling. Maybe it was just my imagination, or maybe some part of her spirit still lingered. Not as the old Karen who ruled by rules, but as someone who finally understood what community meant. The wind carried the scent of popcorn and pumpkin spice. I leaned back in my chair, letting the laughter and warmth of the night wash over me. Jamie nudged me. "So, what's next for you, Red Door Rebel?" I grinned. "Maybe nothing. Maybe this is exactly enough." She raised her mug in a toast. "To the Red Door, the start of something brighter." I raised mine too, and to all the people who learned to open theirs. The movie flickered on, casting gentle light across the row of houses. Each door different now. Blue, green, yellow, even one with hand-painted vines across the frame. It was no longer a street of perfect sameness. It was a street of stories. As the credits rolled and people started heading home, I stayed behind for a moment. The neighborhood was quiet again, and the stars were out. I walked to my red door, brushed my hand against its surface, and smiled. That door had seen everything: anger, laughter, rebellion, forgiveness. It wasn't just a door anymore. It was a reminder. A reminder that color isn't just paint, it's courage. And maybe that's what the world needed more of. A little courage to be different, a little kindness to understand, and a little patience to let others find their shade of red. I unlocked it one last time that night, stepped inside, and turned to look back. The porch light cast a soft glow over the red paint, and for a second, it looked almost alive, like it was breathing peace back into the neighborhood. "Good night," I whispered. The door clicked shut, warm and quiet. And just like that, the story that began with a two-red door ended with a neighborhood full of color and hearts brighter than ever. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe, like, and share. It really helps the channel grow. More wild HOA stories are coming soon on Zarila HOA Stories.